this video, we will learn many of the basics of four-part writing. This will culminate in the voicing of individual triads. The first basic idea of four-part writing is that it is done in SATB format. SATB stands for soprano, alto, tenor, bass. The four voices are written on the grand staff with the soprano and alto voices notated in the treble clef and the tenor and bass voices notated in the bass clef. Notice the stem direction for each voice. The soprano and tenor voices are written with stems up, and the alto and bass voices are written with stems down. This is regardless of where the notes are on the staff. The stem direction makes it possible to easily follow the notes of each voice as its own melody line. Second, each voice has a specific range of notes that can be used. The ranges that are used are for untrained singers. Here is the range for the soprano. The open notes, D4 and F5, indicate the low and high notes of the practical range of the soprano. These are the notes that can be sung comfortably. The filled-in notes of middle C and A5 indicate the extended range of an untrained soprano and should only be used when absolutely necessary. Here is the practical range for the alto voice, and here is the extended range. Here is the practical range for the tenor, and here is the extended range. This range for tenors is specifically for part writing purposes. Tenor singers can sing lower than the range suggests. However, it is important for tenors to not conflict with the bass, as this can create a muddy or unclear quality to the composition. Here is the practical range for the bass voice, and here is the extended range. Third, when voicing a chord, we must consider the distance between each adjacent voice. Soprano and alto voices should be an octave or less apart. This is true for the alto and tenor voices as well. The distance between the bass and tenor voices, however, can be more or less than an octave. Fourth, since we are working with four voices but triads only have 3 notes, we will naturally need to double one note. Doublings can vary depending on the position of the chord, root position, first inversion, or second inversion, and the context of the chord in the progression. For root position triads, we will double the root. Let's begin by voicing a C major triad in the key of C. First, I will complete the analysis. This includes the chord symbol above the staff and the Roman numeral below the staff. Since we are in the key of C, this is a 1 chord. For now, we will only be working with root position triads, so I will place C on the second space of the bass clef for the bass voice. The term root position means that the root of the chord is the lowest note. Therefore, in four-part writing, we will place the root in the bass voice. Let's double check that this note fits in the bass range. Here's the bass range, and we can see that C3 is comfortably in the bass range. Next, I will choose a soprano note. Again, since triads have 3 notes, but we are voicing in a 4-part texture, we will need to double one note of the chord. Since it is in root position, we will double the root. Therefore, the soprano voice can have C, E, or G. Depending on the note that we choose, it will change the voicing of the chord, but not the chord name or analysis. For this example, I will place a C in the soprano. Here is the soprano range, and we can see that C5 is comfortably in the soprano range. So far, we have used 2 C notes. we still need an E and a G to complete the voicing. A common way to voice a chord is in what we call close position. In a close position, root position triad, we will simply voice down from the soprano with the next closest notes to complete the voicing. The closest note of the C chord down from the C that we have in the soprano is G. The G will be the alto note. If I continue down to the next closest note of the chord, it will be E. E is the tenor note. The tenor voice is written in bass clef. Now be careful not to put this note in the third space of the bass clef. This is the E that is closest to the alto G and will therefore be 2 ledger lines above the bass clef. We can see that both the alto and tenor voices are comfortably in range. Now this chord can be voiced in a different way but still retain the same bass and soprano notes. If I place the G in the bass clef for the tenor and the E in the treble for the alto, it opens up the position of the chord, and now the 3 top notes are no longer as close together as they can be. We still retain the double root along with the other 2 notes of the chord. This is known as an open position voicing. Notice that for both of these voicings, the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass voices are in order from high to low. There is no crossing of the voices. Also, we have maintained the spacing rule. There is no more than an octave between the soprano and alto and tenor. But there can be more than an octave between the bass and tenor, as in the first example. While this particular chord worked in both open and close position, open position voicings are typically used when the soprano extends to a 4th line D or higher. Here's an example of a C chord with 4th space E in the soprano. It is in close position because the top 3 notes are as close as they can be together. Notice that the G note in the tenor is in the extended range. We can spread the notes out for an open position and all of the voices will be in their practical ranges. We have the C in the bass and the E in the soprano. We can place the G in the alto and the double root of C in the tenor. Let's try another example. Let's voice a G minor chord in the key of F. This is a 2 chord. I will start with the bass voice and place G, the root of the chord, in the bass. Here I have 2 possible G notes that fit the range of the bass voice: bottom line G or top space G. Let's choose the bottom line. Next we will choose the soprano note. Here we can use any of the notes of the chord: G, B flat, or D. Bottom space D, first line G, middle line B flat, and 4th line D are all in the practical range of the soprano. Let's use B flat. Since the note is below D5, we can use a close position voicing. All we need to do is work down from the soprano to the closest notes of the chord. The next note of the G minor chord down from B flat is G. This is the alto note. The next note down from G in the G minor chord is D. This is the tenor note. Here is a close position voicing of the G minor chord. Let's try another example. Let's voice an A flat chord in the key of D flat major. This is a 5 chord. I will start with the bass voice and place A flat, the root of the chord, in the bass. Here I have 2 possible A flat notes that fit the range of the bass voice: bottom space A flat or top line A flat. Let's choose the bottom space. Next we will choose the soprano note. Here we can use any of the notes of the chord: A flat, C, or E flat. Bottom line E flat, second space A flat, third space C, and fourth space E flat are all in the practical range of the soprano. Let's use E flat. Since this note is above D5, we can use an open position voicing. We are missing the A flat for the double root and the C. For an open position chord, we will need some space between the voices. So we do not want to place C in the alto, as this will bring us to a close position voicing. I will place the A flat in the alto for the double root. This leaves C in the tenor. To summarize, 4-part writing is done soprano, alto, tenor, bass using the grand staff. Sopranos and altos are written in treble clef, tenors and basses are written in bass clef. Sopranos and tenors use stems up, and altos and basses use stem down. Ranges: keep all voices in range using the extended ranges only when necessary. Distance between voices: sopranos and altos and tenors should be an octave or less apart. Basses and tenors can be more or less than an octave apart. Doubling: double the root of a root position triad. Position: in close position, keep the top 3 notes as close together as they can be, but on different notes. In open position, create distance between the upper 3 voices. Cross voicing: keep the notes in voice order: bass, tenor, alto, soprano.